Chapter 2. He looked at the door, open as it always used to be, as he walked up Jabal Road toward it. Here, enclosed by ridges of the Muqattam Hill, was the Durrasa quarter, the scene of so many pleasant memories. The sandy ground was dotted with animals, teeming with children. Saeed gazed delightedly at the little girls panting from both emotion and exhaustion. Men lolled around him in the shade of the hill, away from the declining sun. At the threshold of the open door, he paused, trying to remember when he'd crossed it last. The simplicity of the house, which could hardly be different from those of Adam's day, was striking. At the left corner of the big open courtyard stood a tall palm tree with a crooked top. To the right, an entrance corridor led by an open door. In this strange house, no door was ever closed, to a single room. His heart beat fast, carrying him back to a distant, gentle time of childhood, dreams, a loving father, and his own innocent yearning. He recalled the men filling the courtyard, swaying with their chanting, God's praise echoing from the depths of their hearts. Look and listen, learn and open your heart, his father used to say. Besides a joy like the joy of paradise that was aroused in him by faith and dreams, there had also been the joy of singing and green tea. He wondered how Ali al-Junaidi was. From inside the room he could hear a man concluding his prayers. Said smiled, slipped in carrying his books, and saw the sheikh sitting cross-legged on the prayer carpet, absorbed in quiet recitation. The old room had hardly changed. The rush mats had been replaced by new ones, thanks to his disciples, but the sheikh's sleeping mattress still lay close to the western wall, pierced by a window through which the rays of the declining sun were pouring down at Said's feet. The other walls of the room were half covered with rows of books on shelves. The odor of incense lingered, as if it were the same he remembered, never dissipated, from years ago. Putting down his load of books, he approached the sheikh. Peace be upon you, my lord and master. Having completed his recitation, the sheikh raised his head, disclosing a face that was emaciated but radiant with overflowing vitality, framed by a white beard like a halo, and surmounted by a white skull cap that nestled in thick locks of hair, showing silvery at his temples. The sheikh scrutinized him with eyes that had been viewing this world for 80 years, and indeed had glimpsed the next, eyes that had not lost their appeal, acuteness, or charm. Said found himself bending over his hand to kiss it, suppressing tears of nostalgia for his father, his boyish hopes, the innocent purity of the distant past. Peace and God's compassion be upon you, said the sheikh in a voice like time. What had his father's voice been like? He couldn't see he could see his father's face, and his lips moving, and tried to make his eyes do the service of ears, but the voice had gone. And the disciples, the men chanting in the mystical dakhir, O Master, the Prophet is at your gate, where were they now? He sat down cross-legged on the rush mat before the sheikh. I'm sitting without asking your permission, he said. I remember that you prefer that. He sensed that the sheikh was smiling, though on those lips concealed amidst the whiteness no smile was visible. Did the sheikh remember him? Forgive my coming to your house like this, but there's nowhere else in the world for me to go. The sheikh's head drooped to his breast. You seek the walls, not the heart, he whispered. Said was baffled. Not knowing what to say, he sighed and then quickly remarked, I got out of jail today. Jail? Said the sheikh, his eyes closed. Yes, you haven't seen me for more than 10 years, and during that time strange things have happened to me. You've probably heard about them from some of your disciples who know me. Because I hear much, I can hardly hear anything. In any case, I didn't want to meet you under false pretenses, so I'm telling you I got out of jail only today. The sheikh slowly shook his head, then opening his eyes, said, You have not come from jail. The voice was sorrowful. Said smiled. This was the language of old times again, where words had double meaning. Master, every jail is tolerable, except the government jail. The sheikh glanced at him with clear and lucid eyes, then muttered, He says every jail is tolerable except the government jail. Said smiled again, though he'd almost given up hope of being able to communicate, and asked, Do you remember me? Your concern is the present hour. Fairly certain he was remembered, Said asked for reassurance. And do you remember my father? Mr. Mehran, God have mercy on his soul. May God have mercy upon all of us. What wonderful days those were. Say that, if you can, about the present. But God have mercy upon us all. I was saying I just got out of jail today. The sheikh nodded his head, showing sudden vigor, and as he was impaled on the stake, he smiled and said, "It was God's will that I should meet him thus." My father would understand you, but me you turned away from, treating me as if you were turning me out of your house. And even so, I've come back here of my own accord to this atmosphere of incense and disquiet, because a man so desolate with no roof over his head cannot do otherwise. Master, I have come to you now when my own daughter has rejected me. The sheikh sighed. God reveals his secrets to his tiniest creatures. I thought that if God had granted you long life, I would find your door open. And the door of heaven? How have you found that? But there is nowhere on earth for me to go, and my own daughter has rejected me. How like you she is. In what way, master? You seek a roof, not an answer. Said rested his head with its short wiry hair on his dark thin hand and said, My father used to seek you out when he was in trouble, so I found myself. You seek a roof, and nothing else. Convinced the sheikh knew who he was, Said felt uneasy, but did not know why. It's not only a roof, he said. I want more than that. I would like to ask God to be pleased with me. The sheikh replied, as if intoning, The celestial lady said, Aren't you ashamed to ask for his good pleasure while you are still not well pleased with him? The open space outside resounded with the braying of a donkey, which ended in a throaty rattle like a sob. Somewhere a harsh voice was singing, Where have luck and good fortune gone? He remembered once when his father had caught him singing, I give you 3 guesses. His father had punched him gently and said, Is this an appropriate song on our way to the blessed sheikh? He remembered how, in the midst of the chanting, his father had reeled in ecstasy, his eyes swimming, his voice hoarse, sweat pouring down his face, while he himself sat at the foot of the palm tree, watching the disciples by the light of a lantern, nibbling a fruit wrapped in curious bliss. All that was before he'd felt the first scalding drop of the draught of love. The sheikh's eyes were closed now, as if he were asleep, and Said had become so adjusted to the setting and atmosphere that he could no longer smell the incense. It occurred to him that habit is the root to laziness, boredom, and death. That habit had been responsible for his sufferings, the treachery, the ingratitude, and the waste of his life's hard toil. Are the Dakir meetings still held here? He asked, simply trying to rouse the sheikh. But the sheikh never gave no answer. Even more uneasy now, Said asked a further question. Aren't you going to welcome me here? The sheikh opened his eyes and said, We are the seeker and the sought, but you are the master of the house. The owner of the house welcomes you, the sheikh said, suddenly jovial, as he welcomes every creature and everything. Encouraged, Said smiled, but the sheikh added, as if in afterthought, As for me, I am the master of nothing. The sunlight on the rush mat had retreated to the wall. In any case, said Said, this house is my real home, as it always was a home for my father and for every supplicant. You, my master, deserve all our gratitude. Lord, you know how incapable I am of doing you justice and thanking you, so please thank yourself on my account. Thus spake one of the grateful. I am in need of a kind word, Said pleaded. Do not tell lies. The sheikh spoke gently, then bowed his head, his beard fanning out over his chest, and seemed lost in thought. Said waited, then shifted backward to rest against one of the bookshelves, where for several minutes he sat contemplating the fine-looking old man, until finally impatience made him ask, Is there anything I can do for you? The sheikh did not bother to respond, and a period of silence followed, during which Said watched a line of ants nimbly crawling along the fold in the mat. Suddenly the sheikh said, Take a copy of the Quran and read. A little confused, Said explained apologetically, I just got out of jail today, and I have not performed the prayer ablutions. Wash yourself now and read. My own daughter has rejected me. She was scared of me as if I was the devil, and before that her mother was unfaithful to me. Wash and read, replied the sheikh gently. She committed adultery with one of my men, a layabout, a mere pupil of mine, utterly servile. She applied for divorce on grounds of my imprisonment, and went and married him. Wash and read. And he took everything I owned, the money, the jewelry. He's a big man now, and all the local crooks have become his followers and cronies. Wash and read. It wasn't thanks to any sweat by the police that I was arrested, Saeed went on, the veins in his forehead pulsing with anger. No, it wasn't. I was sure of my safety as usual. It was that dog who betrayed me in collusion with her. Then disaster followed disaster until finally my daughter rejected me. Wash and read the verses. Say to them, if you love God, then follow me and God will love you. And I have chosen thee for myself. Also repeat the words, love is acceptance, which means obeying his commands and refraining from what he has prohibited, and contentment with what he decrees and ordains. I could see my father listening and nodding his head with pleasure, looking at me with a smile as if saying, listen and learn. I had been happy then, hoping no one could see me so I could climb the palm tree or throw up a stone to bring down a date, singing to myself along with those chanting men. Then one evening, when I'd come back to the students' hostel in Giza, I saw her coming towards me, holding a basket, pretty and charming, all the joys of heaven and torments of hell that I was fated to experience hidden within her. What had it been about the chanting I'd liked, when they recited, as soon as he appeared at the beacon of faith shone, and I saw the crescent moon and the face of the beloved? But the sun has not yet set. The last golden thread is receding from the window. A long night is waiting for me, the first night of freedom. I am alone with my freedom. Or rather, I am in the company of the sheikh, who is lost in heaven, repeating words that cannot be understood by someone approaching hell.